Hello. Hello, everyone. Hi, Erica. Hi, Marco. Welcome.
Hi, Anna. Hi, Marco.
Hello, everyone who's joining us today. Thank you for joining us. Today, we're going to talk about how to create easy custom post types and fields in WordPress. And the webinar is presented by Marco Berrocal. Real quick, I want to say a couple of words about GreenGeeks. For those of you who are watching and are not familiar with us, we're a 300% green energy web hosting provider, which essentially means we put back 3 times the power we consume into the grid in the form of renewable energy. We have been recognized by the US EPA since 2009 as a green power partner, and we offer share hosting, reseller hosting, VPS, and dedicated server. Now moving on to the webinar, if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the Q&A for Marco to answer. You can also chat in the chat room, but remember to select all panelists and attendees if you want everybody to see what you're discussing. Also, as always, we're recording this presentation, so if you need to step away from your computer, don't worry, because we'll send you a recording in the next couple of days. And finally, we have now enabled live transcription for the webinar. So if you have the ability to enable them during the webinar by going to live transcript and then show subtitles. I'm going to introduce the GreenGeeks team here today. We have Erica, who will be assisting us with the Q&A. Hey, welcome, Erica.
Hi, Anna. Hi, Marco. And hi, everyone. My name is Erica Barbosa. I am from Costa Rica. I work in the partners team. And today I'm going to be in the chat, sharing some links. And thank you for joining us today. I hope you enjoy this webinar.
Thanks, Erica. Marco, you don't need any introduction. Do you want to say who you are and start?
Yes, I'm Marco Wordpress. I am a senior WordPress developer out of Costa Rica as well. I work at GreenGeeks Partners Relations, doing a lot of videos and webinars and writing about WordPress. I have worked extensively with the system for over 10 years. I do a lot of custom development and custom themes for WordPress, a lot into the development world. I'm also studying history, not related, but you know, it's a little bit about me. Excited as usual to give webinars. It's one of the things I love the most. And today, I guess I should get started. Today we are, let me share my screen. Today I'm going to do something different. I'm going to share the other screen. I'm going to share this screen, the main screen. So let's see. So we should have this. You should have, okay, everybody move to the right now. And let me go over here. Okay, and I think my presentation is this, yes. So let me see what happens when I hit play. When I hit play, it shows bad. That's because I have them inverted. Okay, so today we are going to discuss how to create easy custom post types and fields within WordPress. I think these 2 subjects are really important because I'm going back a little bit in history here. WordPress started as a blogging platform, and people would write, posts and entries about blogs, about life, about things. And I remember when I started development for WordPress, back then, it wasn't as big as it was today. And there was a lot of flack on the WordPress side of things, saying it was a blogging platform. It's just a blogging platform. It's not a full-featured, meat bones content management system, such as Joomla or Drupal at the time, who were quite big back then. So WordPress had a lot of bad rap for that. I think part of the reasons why they had that is because the inability to create custom post types and fields out of the box. WordPress still follows that philosophy today. They don't offer that out of the box because I would say if it's not needed, why add it, So is it a good decision or not? Well, that's really, really debatable. I personally think it shouldn't because it adds a little bit less to the complexity of how things are, but it's also good to know that you have this option in order to add it. So today we are going to discuss the difference between posts and pages, which are two type of entries that come with WordPress as a default. There's more entries that come as default, but those are really technical interview questions that I usually like to give people when they're learning about WordPress, because there's a few that come out of the box, but we're not going to discuss that. We are, of course, going to create custom post types. We are going to use a plugin for that. I am going to discuss briefly, maybe yes, maybe no, a bit on template hierarchy. The reason I added it and then I omitted it has to do with custom fields. It's because when you add custom fields to it, you need to add that to your actual template in order for them to display. But I found a workaround, so it's all good and it should look fantastic. So we most likely, I may include it as an afterthought, but it's not strictly necessary for this webinar. We are going to discuss, of course, what custom fields are and why you should use them. And we are going to create some of them and view them on our own. So what are we going to need today? We're going to need a WordPress site. Doesn't matter if you're on GreenGeeks or not. Any WordPress site will do. Any theme and plugin will do as well. We are going to code a bit. I think not. I think due to time constraints and complexity issues, we are going to go the plugin route. It's far easier and better if we go this way. So, you know, if there's chance, we'll do it. If not, we won't. But most likely, we will not. Okay. So, why are custom fields important? So, they're really important because it gives you more power. More power for what? To give you options, you know. Let's think of the typical scenario. Like, for example, I'm going to use two examples. I'm going to use the movies example, and I'm going to use our example, GreenGeeks. Currently, we offer webinars. We offer them about twice a month, and we need to publish them somewhere on our site. So people might say on one end of the table, yeah, let's just use the blog that comes with WordPress. Let's pretend the entire site GreenGeeks is powered by WordPress. And people would say, okay, let's just use the blog for that. And we add a special category called webinars. And some people might say, yeah, that's a good idea. So you start adding blog entries that have the category of webinars. But it doesn't scale very well because, let's say, for example, tomorrow, Anna would come in and say, oh, but we need to add a category. We need to be able to differentiate between Spanish and English. So we would say, oh, okay, how do we do that? Well, there's two options. We could either add a category, a new one, called language, or a tag called language, or we could add a field within the WordPress blog entry or editor that describes in what language this is. But this conflicts with the blog entries who don't rely on that data. Like for example, if I write a typical blog entry about hosting, I don't need to know anything about webinars, but I'm modeling the fields with blogs. And let's say tomorrow, Erica comes in and says, oh, but we need also to have a speaker biography about who is giving the webinar. And here comes another question. How should we go forth with this? Well, there's two options. Either you can add that on every webinar entry at the bottom of the post. Like, let's say, for example, you write the webinar and then at the bottom you put the author, or you could have fields for that, custom fields, like, let's say, my picture, my biography, et cetera, but you're also adding that to your blog posts. And again, you need to start juggling those balls in order to really separate them too. And as the site grows and as things escalate, you are beginning to mix that more and more and more, and it becomes harder to maintain because, let's say, for example, tomorrow I add a webinar and I forget to add that at the bottom. It's not going to be there. Or worse yet, the information changes. Let's say my email is no longer the same, but now you have all those webinars that you've previously created. And are you going to update the email addresses on all of them? Or is it best to have a field that is central and you update once and that's that? So those are the questions or the things that happen on a day-to-day basis. And the same can be said about movies. I could add a category called movies, sure, but then I start to have problems. Like, for example, if I want to give the movie a rating, if I want to add actors, if I want to add directors, and if I want to do that using our blogs or posts, and I'm on top of that, using that to create, news and whatnot, I'm really muddling the field. I'm really, it's apples and oranges, and it's just not scalable enough. It's not a good practice. It's prone to error, and sooner or later, it's going to be difficult to maintain, and it's going to be a nuisance, really. So custom posts, custom entries do exactly that. They give you the ability to add a type of entry, in this case called webinars, where all the entries that are going to be created are going to be webinars. So you differentiate them too, and you can keep on blogging, but at the same time, you can keep on adding entries of webinars as time goes by. And you can add those fields strictly for the webinars and not for blog posts. And vice versa. You could add, information about blog posts that you don't need on webinars. So it gives you a lot more power to do stuff. So I just told you movies is a good instance, or let's say you had a bookstore or you are reviewing books. Well, you can have an entry called books, and each entry is a book. Same could be said about music, video games, even your services. There's instances where I'm developing a solution for a client, and let's say he's a lawyer, right? So lawyers typically specialize in everything that ends with a dollar sign. I'm just kidding. So, and they specialize in everything. Like they do civil law, there's penal law, there's family law, there's agricultural law, corporate law. There's a lot of things. So these firms usually have a lawyer for each of those services. So instead of having a page displaying those services, I create a custom post type called legal services, for example, and you can add and remove those services as you see fit. And all of them would follow more or less a nomenclature as far as what information needs to be added. So Woocommerce is another example of that. So Woocommerce, when you install it, it adds the custom post type called products. So each entry that you do is essentially a product. So you notice all that information whenever you've used WooCommerce, it has a lot of information. It has price, it has weight, it has dimensions, it has SKU, it has a lot of information. So if you don't separate them too, and you put all of your products into your blog, you're going to have a lot of problems. So this is why custom post types are really important. So it doesn't matter what your industry is or what your scenario might be, custom post types can solve a lot of problems in order to separate things and scale properly. So this is why it gives you a lot more power. And this has to do a lot with the second item. Your business is going to grow, and that is a fact. I think it is a fact. When you work hard, that is a fact. Your business is going to grow, and sometimes WordPress is not going to be good enough out of the box. And this is why you need to add a new solution, and custom post types and custom fields are exactly that. Okay. So it's really important to understand the difference between posts and pages. They are different. They are the two entries that are the most visible when you install WordPress, but they have a few differences on their own. So let's dig in. I kind of need to get used to having the monitor on the other side. So I'm going to look a lot to my right. So, okay. So in here, we have a WordPress website. I haven't installed it yet. I am going to install it really quickly because I wanted to do everything from scratch. So I am going to go here and I am going to install WordPress just quick on our GreenGeeks dashboard. So I'm going to install it now. And I am going to do CPT. That's a good name, custom post type. So I'm going to install it on my domain. I'm going to use this. I'm going to use a quick install. Let's see what that turns out. Yes, admin CPT. Password, well, you can look at it. I'm going to change it anyways. So, and here we go. Nothing fancy. I am not going to add anything. Yeah, I'm not going to add anything. So I'm going to install it. I'll go for it. It's going to take a few minutes, but it actually doesn't. So in the meantime, I am going to access that site. It's going to be called marcoberrocal.com. It's going to be CPT. Okay, it's going to be over here. Let me move this bar. Oh, it's already installed, as you can see. CPT, and yeah, that's good. And I'm going to go here, go to my admin. Oh, I love that. So everything's installed. For this webinar purposes, I am going to downgrade the theme. The reason why I want to do this is because 5.9 came out. It has its quirks, and I don't want to show, things and then they don't work as expected. So I'm going to downgrade for a bit, but you can use this theme if you want and follow along. I just want to play it 100% safe. So we have posts and we have pages. I need to add just one more thing. I need to add, I am going to add entries to it. Okay, I'm going to add entries to it. So I'm going to go to Tools, Import. I'm going to install this called Wordpress Import. What it basically does is it installs, like you can transfer your content from one side to the other. Okay, so I'm going to go with that. I'm going to go with this file over here. I'm going to hit open. I'm going to upload file and import. So basically, I'm importing what I previously had on my WordPress install, and I'm going to go with it. I'm going to wait a little, and it failed to import. That's fine. Now I have a few entries over here. I have a few entries over here, and I have a few pages. I just figured it was faster to do this as opposed to creating them one by one. I'm going to next up go to reading, and I am going to select my home page right here, and I'm going to select my blog page right here. This is standard, WordPress stuff. Whenever we have a new installation of WordPress, I just imported content and I selected what my homepage and my blog posts are going to be. So if I refresh over here, I should have this. Okay, this doesn't look the best. It's not my finest design, but it'll do. So we have that. We are ready. First, I want to say a few differences. Okay, the first and most evident one is that they're on separate options. Okay, so posts have the philosophy that whenever you create them, they follow a timeless philosophy. What does that mean? That means that whenever I add a new post, that post gets added to a section of my site, or be this my homepage, or be this my blog post page. Someone raised their hand. Okay. So this follows an editorial principle, meaning that the fresh stuff is at the top. Okay. So if I go to pages over here, let me open this and let me see my blog post. If I hit the view, these are my post page, as it's clearly indicated over here. So in here, it's really straightforward, right? I add a new post. If I go over here, add a new one, and we're going to call it custom post types, custom post type. If I add that, new content. If I add this, if I hit the publish and I go back here and refresh, this gets added. You see, this is the newest one, then the next one, then the next one, and so forth and so forth. So posts follow that principle where the new stuff is at the very beginning and the last stuff gets pushed down and down as time goes by. This is an editorial principle because you want the latest news at the front. You don't want to see the old stuff. And if you want to have look at the old stuff, you're gonna need to look for it. So posts behave like that. They are sequential. They are timed. Like When you add, they get stacked one on top of the other. Pages do not. So if I go to a page over here, let's say this sample page, and I add another sample page, it doesn't matter if I add it, this is going to stay the same. So it's a philosophy to say that pages work for static content, for content that is not going to be changed a lot. Okay, so think of scenarios like this. So let's say, for example, a bit about yourself, a bit about your company. You are going to, you are going to say something about yourself. You're going to have your history. You're going to have your mission, your values, testimonials. I don't know, but that stuff doesn't get updated a lot. It doesn't, like, you're not going to add a history after history after history unless you want to have a timeline or something like that. But it's not a feasible scenario. Neither the about section. You're not going to add more about segments on top of your about page. So that stuff doesn't change a lot. And that is one of the key differences between pages and posts. So pages are really, really static in terms that the information doesn't change a lot. And if you add new, it doesn't get updated, whereas posts do, okay? The second big difference is the categories and tags. Posts by default have categories and tags, pages do not. So what does that mean? Categories and tags, to go over it quickly, are ways that you can organize your content. So if you are writing posts, you can categorize it. And note how we initially said, using the webinar example, that we could categorize our blog posts as, webinars or regular blog posts, but it's not a good practice. Categories should be a broad term that encompasses the purpose of your blog. So if you have a blog that is going to be about traveling, you could add a category called destination. You can add a category called weather. You can add a category called difficulty, or things of that nature. So your blog post is having a theme that is wrapped around the concept of traveling. So all your categories or ways that you can organize that are in functional or in service to that. Tags work similarly, but they more or less describe what each entry is about. And I always like to give the example of, let's say Michael Jordan, for example, or let's say I had a news site, a sports site. I had a sports site, and I am going to naturally, whenever I write news, it's going to be about the NBA, it's going to be about the NFL, Major League Soccer, Major League Baseball, and so forth. But I also have other departments, like, let's say, culture, business, politics. You get the drift. So Michael Jordan, let's say I had this blog since Michael Jordan was a player. So I have a lot of sports articles about him. And maybe he's not the best example. Let's say LeBron James, since he's currently playing. So LeBron James is currently playing. I have articles about LeBron James. He's doing terrible with the Lakers. Is he going to win another ring? Is he going to do this, this, and that? But let's say LeBron James is now an entrepreneur as well, or he's in the fashion business. So whenever I write an article about LeBron James, I can't put that in the sports section anymore, since it's about fashion. The article itself is about fashion. But if he plays for the Lakers and he had a triple-double, and I write about that, it's about the NBA. So how do I link those two together how do I link LeBron between them without resorting to categories? And that is exactly what tags do, because I can tag them both as LeBron James, but they can fall under completely different categories. So categories describe more or less what the article is about, whereas categories are ways of organizing your content. I wanted to give that, it's out of the scope of this webinar, but people ask me a lot what the differences between each are. So posts have that ability, pages do not, okay? Another feature that posts have, and let me go back here, is that Posts have the ability to the social component of it. So if we open Hello World over here, you can see that you can comment on posts. And again, that follows the editorial philosophy behind posts. You want interaction with your visitors. You want people to discuss. You want people to say, I agree, I don't. Hopefully you don't want it to get nasty, but people do comment. People love to give opinions. People love to debate. It's what makes us humans. And posts are the way to do that. And pages, they don't offer the option out of the box. You can add them, but it's kind of tacky. I mean, what am I going to discuss on an about page, right? I mean, there's only so much I can discuss. There's not a lot of it's not a lot of currentness about it. So, posts offer the ability to add comments, and pages do not. Another difference is the whole parent-to-child relationship that pages offer. Remember the whole about thing that we discussed. So if we have sample page over here, if I quick edit this, you see this option over here called parent. Whereas if you go to post, and let's quick edit this over here, let's move this here so you can see side by side. I mean, pages offer the same up to this point. Let me highlight that so you can see. Up to this point, they look exactly the same. The title, the slot, the date, and password, right? But over to the right here, you start seeing things differently. You can, quickly edit the categories, add your tags, whereas pages have this parent relationship. So if I say I want to make this a child, this is just a page, and I update this, you notice this little stripe came up, this little bar. That means in the WordPress dashboard that this is a child of something. Now it's a quirk because it doesn't update properly, because if you took notice, I set that this is just a page, is its parent, so it should appear under here. But again, WordPress is great and all, but it has its flaws. So you need to refresh in order to fully see that. So here it is. This is just a page, a sample page, and a few pages. So you can see that one is child of the other, and this one is the father of this one. So you can establish that parent-to-child relationship with pages. With posts, you definitely cannot do that. There could be scenarios where you want to have that. It's really up to you. But those are like the differences between them. And it's important that you understand that, because whenever we are creating a custom post type, you need to answer the following question. Do you want them to behave, these new posts or entries, do you want them to behave like a page, or do you want them to behave like posts? So it's really important that you have that upfront, that you know that upfront, because this allows you to scale properly and set that option properly. So going back to our presentation, those are the key differences between them. To go over them quickly: timeliness, social, no hierarchy, and can be organized. Taxonomies, which is a fancy word for categories and tags. So if you are creating something from scratch, custom post type, you need to answer yourself, is it going to be timeliness? If the answer is yes, then you need to create a custom post type that behaves like a post. Is it going to be social? If the answer is yes, well, you need to create something that behaves like a post. Do you want to have hierarchy or not? If you want to have hierarchy, then you need to create something that behaves like a page. Do you need to have your own categories and tags for it? If the answer is yes, you need to go the post route. Can I have hierarchy with taxonomies? Can I have 3 with 4? No, you cannot. Can I have 3 with 1? No, you cannot. So it's really important that you decide that, because once you've set this, it's a little bit difficult to go back, okay? So how can we create a custom post type? We can do 2 ways. I'm going to use one, which is the plugin route. I'm not going to go with the development route because it's a little complex, and if you can use a plugin, Why not? Okay. So going back to our previous website, over here. If we go back to our previous website, we are going to go to our plugins. We are going to add a new one, and we are just going to hit custom post. Custom, here you go. Custom post. We're going to do that. As usual, the options come up as to which one you want to use. Personally, I use this one by Web Dev Studios. It's because, well, first of all, a lot of installations, a lot of ratings. Last updated a week ago. This is the only flag, but hey, I can live with that. And it's done by these guys, Web Dev Studios. They're a huge WordPress development studio out of the United States. Very popular, very good, very pro at what they do. So we are going to install that, and we're going to activate that. So once we activate this, this panel is going to come up, okay? So we are going to create ours. We're going to add and edit post types, okay? So here comes the fun part. The ones in red, the asterisk, are needed. The ones that are not needed. That means that you can just do these three and the rest will follow along. But I'm going to explain, the key differences as to what you need to set. So first of all, I decided to do movies because I like movies. So we're going to do movies, okay? Important. You need to decide the plural and singular name for this. The reason behind that is because when you do, WordPress is going to grab that and it's going to use them as labels. Because if you think about it, WordPress has a lot of labels for everything. And this is exactly what you can set over here. You can set all of these options for labels, okay? You can set them, but if you don't, WordPress is going to grab these words like the plural and singular instances of each, and it's going to tack onto it. So this is why it's important that you get both right. So it's also the reason why they are needed and these ones are not, because if you don't set these, it's going to grab this for plural, and it's going, like for example here, my movies, and it's going to grab the plural version of it. So in this case, my movies. So I'm going to go with movies, and the singular is going to be movie. Okay, so this we are going to leave for blank. This is just a description. This is just a description. Just a description. No much is needed. Much is needed. Okay, so we're going to minimize. We're going to collapse this. And in here, we have these settings. A lot of them are intimidating, I will be honest with you, but the ones we need to set or really look into is this one. The first one is has archive. Has archive means that whenever I access the slug over here, am I going to get a list of, in this case, movies such as this? Okay, if I don't set that, it's not going to show up. So where am I? Here. So that is really the essence of this option over here. So in my case, I want to set this to yes, because if I go to movies over here in this URL, I want to see the list, the timeliness list of movies that I keep adding as I add more and more movies. So I definitely want to set this to true. Okay. The other thing that is really, really important is that you set this hierarchical to true or false. Oh, wait, I did the incorrect one. So I'm going to set this to true. The second one I really need to be careful or really need to think about is, do I want to set this to true or false? Remember the whole, when I gave my slide about the hierarchy, if I set this to true, it's going to behave like a page. If I set this to false, it's going to behave like a post. So in my scenario, movies, I want them to be like posts. So I'm going to set this to false. And the last thing that second to last, you want to choose an icon? Yeah, sure. I want to choose an icon. So this is optional, it's not required, but I'm very a little uptight about that. So I am going to choose this as my icon. The last thing that's really, really important is that the supports. The supports are a bunch of checkbox, and basically these checkbox, what they mean is these guys over here. Notice all these guys to my right, the excerpt, the discussion. There's more options that you can add, I think. Let me see, preferences, blocks, general, partners, no. Okay, so this over here is more or less, what do I want to add over here? Okay, what options do I want to add to my right? So do I want to add a title? Well, yeah, I do, but is it strictly necessary? No, sometimes it isn't. Do I want to add the editor? Do I want to add this, like this whole editor? Do I want to do this? Yes or no? Hold on, this, I don't know what's here. Do I want to have all of this capability within this custom post type? Well, I'm going to say yes, but sometimes I don't need it. There's been scenarios where I just need a title and that's really it. So it's up to you. Featured image. Do I want to have this featured image capability? This one over here. Most likely, yes, I do. The excerpt, which is like a small extract of like a small summary of what your blog post is. Yes. And the rest, you guys get the gist. Do I want to have comments with it? Yes, I do. Do I want to have page attributes? No. I really encourage you to find out what each of them is if you want to have more options within your custom post type. But in my scenario, I just want to have these. I, of course, want to have custom fields, which we're going to discuss in a little bit. And I really don't know what the none is about, but I guess, yeah, what is none? I don't understand. Second, or the last, this is really the last, do I want to use the taxonomies that are currently available for this WordPress installation? Currently, I have only two, which are the default ones that come with WordPress, called categories and tags. But, and this is the reason why I love this plugin, is that you can make your own taxonomies as well. So we're going to do that in a bit. So I'm going to add this post type. And now notice I have the movies over here. And this is why, and that's like that. So I currently don't have any movies, but I'm going to run that import tool again. I'm going to run this importer again because I had some movies from previous webinar. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to go like this. I'm going to do that. And now it's going to work. Yeah. Cool, eh? There we go. So this most likely is going to, and no, it didn't. Oh, cool. So now if I go to movies over here, I still don't have movies. Oh, it didn't work. So I'm going to have to add them manually. So we're done as far as adding movies is concerned. Now you can edit that if you want, if you want to, roll back to some of the things that you do. This over here, I don't know what this is. I don't really need it. Oh, but it's a really cool feature because it can give you the template hierarchy, which we're going to discuss in a little bit as to what it is. And that's about it. So I am going to add and edit taxonomies. So it's the same thing. And you might be wondering, what taxonomy do I need to add? And you could say, well, I want to have a taxonomy about actors. I want to be able to add actors to my movies. Okay, so I'm going to name this actors. Okay, I'm going to name this actors. Here we go. Actors over here. Actor over here. And now comes the cool part. Do I want to attach, or what post type do I want to attach this new taxonomy to? So in this case, it's going to be movies. But you could also use posts if you want to, because WordPress offers the ability to share that. Okay, again, you have the labels over here. I'm going to skip that. And you have the settings over here. Now, again, you can skip most of them except this one, hierarchical. Okay, So if you set this to false, it's going to behave like a tag. If you set this to true, it's going to behave like a category. So you need to think about, how do you want to roll with it? Do I want to have a hierarchy as far as these taxonomies are concerned? And I really think I shouldn't, because an actor is an actor. I am not interested in a parent-to-child relationship with him. So I'm going to set this to false. I want this to behave like a tag. So I'm going to add that taxonomy, but I am going to add a new one called genres. Genre over here. And genres, on the other hand, can behave like a category. So I want to attach this to movies, and I want to go all the way down here. But now I want this to be true, because you could have action, but you can also have, I don't know, action neo-noir, which is a genre of movie, or you can have action war or action thriller. You know, you can have that relationship. So I want this to behave like a category. Okay. And we do that. And just like that, we have movies, we have actors, and we have genres. Okay. So I'm going to add a few actors. I'm going to add, I don't know, I'm not going to add Will Smith, that's for sure. I want to add, for example, Bruce Willis, for example. Here we go. I'm going to add him. I'm going to add Samuel L. Jackson. I am going to add Denzel Washington. And I am going to add Meryl Streep. Okay, there we go. So I have a few actors and actresses, and just add one. There we go. So in love with it. There we go. Genres. Again, we're going to do action. We are going to do comedy. We are going to do biographical. We are going to do drama. But now we are going to do neo-noir. And we are going to set the action as its parent. Notice how I can do that over here. And notice again the relationship, the stripe over here. The reason I do this right now is because when I'm adding new movies, you have the option over here to add them, but functionality is kind of quirky, you know, it doesn't, like sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So now I'm going to add a movie called Pulp Fiction. Great movie, even 30 years later. So I'm going to do that, and I can select like this. I can go over here, I can do this. Samuel L. Jackson starts there. Samuel L. Jackson, here he is. And just like that, I'm going to hit the publish. Over here. I'm going to add a new one. You should have that here. And I'm going to add Bridges of Madison County. It is. It's a great movie. So I'm going to add Meryl Streep as my actress. Drama over here, and I am going to publish that. So I just wanted to create two, because now if I go to movies over here, movies, you see I've added two movies, and again the last one I added is The Bridges of Madison County. So as I keep adding movies and movies, this is going to be updated. Now, this looks really, really similar to the block. I mean, there's not a subtle difference. It behaves exactly the same. The only difference is that this extracts blog posts, whilst this extracts my movies. Now, I'm fully aware that this, needs a little bit design, and that's why 5.9 came out. That's a great way to introduce yourself with it. Make sure I've discussed that in the previous webinar. How to design, how to do, full site editing, with stuff such as this. You can grab an archive page for movies, and you can pretty much, go from there and start, doing your magic. So just like that, as easy as this, I created movies, I created actors, I created genres, and I am good to go as far as my movie type of show business is concerned, okay? But now, I wanted to discuss a little bit on template hierarchy. I wanted to say that a little bit briefly, and it was highlighted within the plugin itself. I took a quick glance of it, and for example, if I go here and I view this post type, this column over here is really important. It's called archive file name example. So archive movies, archive index. That more or less means you need to read this from like this. If I have in my theme a file called archive-movies.php, this is the file that WordPress is going to grab in order to serve movies, okay? Currently, the way this theme is set up, it's either grabbing this one, archive, or index. And the reason I say this is because movies and blog share exactly, but I mean exactly the same layout. So WordPress, by default, when it doesn't find this file, it looks for this file. And when it doesn't find that file, it's going to look for this file. So this is the reason why all WordPress themes must have an index.php file, because this is like the default fallback option should no files be present as far as template hierarchy is concerned. Okay, the same can be said about single post files. So archive encompasses the whole list of entries. Okay, so this is an archive page, and this is also an archive page, but this is an archive page for blog posts, while this is an archive page for movies. So this is the hierarchy for movies. So it's important that you understand that, because if you want to have a different layout, if you want to have a different design for this, you're going to have to create a file just for this and start chipping away as far as design is concerned. Now, this is prior to 5.9. Beyond 5.9, you can use the full site editing experience to create your own archive pages and design them and see them as you see fit. WordPress is growing more and more to become something like that, a full site editing experience. So I'm sure you can add a custom blog that can go over your movies and have the most recent movies available for that. So in here, it's a matter of flavors. Do you want to use the old way, the way that you need to actually code, or do you want to use the full site editing experience and adding a few blocks here and there in order to have that dynamic feel or vibe to it, which is to grab the latest pieces of information, okay? So the same can be said about single posts. So again, if single movies post slug, as the asterisk says, replace post slug with the slug of the actual post. Single movies, single, singular, and index. So this falls back. Right now, I'm sure WordPress is grabbing either single or singular. You need to get into the theme in order to review this, either by FTP or locally. But because if you click on here and you open this, and this, they look exactly identical. I mean, there's no difference between them. So, if you want the single movie article to look different, you're going to need to do the same. And, this is the hierarchy for it. So the hierarchy can be found if you look at template hierarchy within WordPress, and it's this URL over here. It's a little intimidating to read, but it's a good read. I mean, it's a good read. And you have this graphic over here, which helps you tremendously as far as understanding how the hierarchy works. So you need to read this from left to right. top to bottom, like this, like following these lines and knowing that this is the fallback for pretty much everything that is on the left over here. So this is why the index is needed. Index is requested when none of this is available. So WordPress scans for that. It uses your URL like this URL over here to determine what type of entry it is. And it starts looking away at this graphic over here to find something that matches. If it matches, it's going to use that. And if it doesn't, it's going to resort all the way to index.php. I mentioned this because you may want to have a different design, a different layout, a different behavior compared to the standard stuff that comes out of the theme. Okay, so moving on. We now have custom fields. So custom fields, it's handy information that belongs to a post. So what type of information? Well, anything you can think of, really. So following our movie example, I added actors, but let's say I wanted to work with ratings, or let's say I wanted to work with time it takes. How long does this movie last? You know, how do I add that information to my post? So there's two ways you could do that. You could go post by post, and you can go movie by movie, for example, and add that. Where am I? Well, let's go back. Let's leave. And let's go to movies. You could say, oh, okay, I'm going to add that here. I mean, rating 3, 4, length 150 minutes. I mean, you could do that, but this is prone to error as well, right? Because you can forget that and you can set that. It's best if you had an option somewhere over here that you could add that and have a default one. And that's exactly what custom fields do. They add these type of values that belong to that post in specific. Another scenario would be, yeah, I have this featured image, but I also want to have a theatrical poster for that movie. And I could insert that as well within my entry, you know, my single blog post. So, you know, the options are infinite and custom fields do exactly that. So think of text fields, think of images, think of videos, think of checkboxes, drop down select boxes, radio buttons, range, you know, those little cute range thingies, you know, you can think of pretty much anything that is data related that you can actually add to a post. And that is exactly what custom fields do. So, you know, how do we add those? Well, again, we're going to use a plugin for that. We're going to use a very extremely popular plugin. This is hands down one of the most popular plugins that are available. It's called, in fact, if I search for it and do custom fields, it's going to come up at the very, very top, which is this one over here. It's advanced custom fields. And it's this one. I'm going to install it again, 2+ million installations, a lot of feedback, compatible, updated a week ago. So we're going to go with that. And we're going to install it. And we're going to activate it. And we are going to have that over here. So now we have that, and we're going to click here. And now we need to add a group. Okay, a group is like the name implies, it's a group of options. It's like this wrapper around the options that we are going to add. So we are going to do this, and we are going to call this movie options, movie information. We're going to do that in movie information. Okay. First of all, we want to show this field group if post type is equal to, and we have the option of here post, page, and movie. We're going to go with movie, but you could add that as well for post. So this would imply that it's either movie or post, but I don't want this for post. I would only want this for movies. Okay, the settings over here, it's really standard stuff. The only one that you need to activate is this one, and I'll tell you why in a bit, but we're going to leave this off for now. Okay, but next up, we have the fields. We need fields. So we are going to need fields. The first field is going to be called movie rating. It's going to be movie rating. Oh, yeah, movie rating. It's going to be like that. That's the label. And this is going to automatically populate, like concatenate, which is put together these two and add that, because the field names need to behave like this. No caps, no spaces, no weird characters. Field type. Now I need to determine what is the field type going to be. Is this going to be text, area, number, range, email, password? What do I want this to be? In this particular situation, I want this to be a text. I want this to be text, and I want people to input that and say how long it lasts. Okay. Default value, this is in case someone forgets. So I'm going to put 2 hours. I'm going to put 2 hours. Placeholder text, leave that for blank. Prepend if I want something before the field, and append after. Okay. Character limits, no. Conditional logic, no. And wrapper attributes, no. So I'm going to add that field, and it's been added. Cool. Now I want to wait. I said movie rating. Oh, very important. I'm going to have to go back, because movie rating, I had said I was going to do a rating one, like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I didn't want this to be text. That was my mistake. So we're going to go with radio button. We're going to go with radio button. And now you see all that stuff that I did disappeared. And required, yes, it's going to be required. Choices are going to be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so enter each choice on a new line, exactly like this. Allow null, no. Other, no. Default value is going to be, actually, I'm going to scrap the 0. I mean, a movie can be bad, but it can't be 0 bad. So default value is going to be 1. Actually, let's leave benevolent. It's going to be 3. In case someone forgets. Layout, vertical value, that seems to be okay. This one is going to be movie duration. This is the one I intended to be text. So this is going to be text. Is this going to be required? I'm going to leave that as no. This is going to be 2 hours. Placeholder text, no. Conditional logic, no. And the last one I want is, I want to add a new field. And another field called poster image. Poster image. So going to do like that, and it's going to be a type of image. Okay, it's going to be an image. Instructions required, no. So what is the return format going to be? This is really important. This is for programmatic purposes. Do I want to have the array? Because as a developer, I may need that, or do I want the URL? I want the URL of the image. And what size do I want? I want a large version of it. Library, or upload it to post. I'm going to select all. Can I restrict the images? Yeah, I could if I wanted to, but I'm going to leave that as no. And it seems that I'm happy with everything. And now at the very top, I'm going to hit the publish. And this has been published. So if I go to this movie over here, Bridges of Madison County, I am going to, I'm going to leave the page. I'm going to go over here, do this. And now I have this movie information over here. So I have 2 hours. Let's say it's actually Bridges of Madison County's variable. It's 3 hours. I have the poster image. I can select an image just as I would use a regular normal image within the WordPress editor. I'm going to leave this for blank, and I'm going to update this, and it looks good. But when I open here, doesn't display that. So how do I display this? There's 2 options to do that. One is programming your way through, which you need to use the advanced custom fields documentation. Like, for example, this one, advancedcustomfields.com, resources text. And in here, they'll tell you how to display this within your template. This is a little bit out of the scope of this webinar because it requires programming. It requires you to get into it and find the template hierarchy to do this. This is why this plugin is great, but it also adds a little bit complex as far as the layers are concerned. Or you could use something that inserts as a block within the editor. And I think that option is far more suitable. If you ask me, for example, I don't have, let me see, we are creating a post. Where do I have this? Okay, so the URL for this, it's called, okay, meta field block. I had it here yesterday, but here we go. Oh, here it is. I have it right here. So how do I add a block editor that allows me to add that field to a movie? Unfortunately, custom fields don't allow this. They sort of do and don't. They allow it if you upgrade it, if you upgrade to your pro version, which of course you need to have money for that. So I mean, we all gotta make a buck here. So you know, if you do that, they'll give you the option of adding those blocks, and you can do that straight right from here, right? You can go over here, add the block, and then type it and insert it, but you need to pay for that. The other option is this plugin that I found that does the trick. It's called Meta Field Block, and you more or less need to download this, and you need to upload this to your WordPress installation. So I couldn't find it by searching for it. I mean, I tried, and I looked for it, and it just was not available. Let's see if it's, maybe I have better luck today. You see, I can't find it because the plugin is not within the actual directory of plugins. So you are going to have to upload this plugin manually. So I do that because I use GreenGeeks, and it's easier. It's easy to do it because if you go to cPanel and it opens my site, I can go to the file manager, go to my directory, which is this over here, CPT, go to WP content, go to plugins, and I have this option over here. You see, I have it over here, and I can do that if I want to, and I could just activate it and move forward with it. But if you want to do that, you're going to have to do that on your own as well. So I currently have it installed, and once you do, it's as easy as going over here, going over here, hitting the plus sign, and typing meta field. And here comes the tricky part. The tricky part is that you have this block option to your right over here, and you need to define what field type do you want to use. So we use advanced custom fields, right? So we use that. So now I need to put the field name. So what is the field name of what I want to put? The field name, you can find that by going back to, custom fields, going to field groups, going to edit, and this is the one that you're going to need. So in this case, I want to add the rating. So I'm going to copy this, the name of it, and put that over here as far as movie rating is concerned. But there's one more thing that you need to do for this to work, which is the show in REST API. You need to set this to yes in order to have to work with this plugin. So we're going to do that, and that looks good to me. So we're going to update this. Of course, as the WordPress editor is concerned, even though it's updated, it's not viewable here. You need to refresh and look at it like this. See, the rating has been added. So this is the rating like that. So you can go over here and you can use the editor to do this. I mean, it's a little cumbersome if you ask me. I much prefer to use the theme, but hey, different straws for different folks. So, that is a good way of adding that information. This is the rating 3. If I update it, it's the 4. I want to see if this gets updated. It should, in theory. And it does, it does. And you can do the same with the image, or you can do the movie duration. Like, for example, if I go over here, add a new block, meta field block, and now we're going to put the input name, which is duration over here. I'm going to put that here. Advanced custom fields. This movie lasts 3 hours. It does. And we hit the update and we go over here, view it. And just like that, we have our custom fields there. I know it's not the most visual, astonishing thing ever, but it does the job. And just to wrap up a little bit, and that's really it, just to important takeaways, WordPress is like a Swiss Army knife. Make sure that you use the right tool for the right job. I mean, it's like that. This is another powerful feature that you can use. Think about it, and say what the approach is going to be. And with that, I'd like to thank all of you for this webinar. I am ready for questions.
Hi, Marco. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Your presentation was very clear.
Yeah.
I don't see any
Okay.
questions at all.
Okay, cool.
It was so good. Okay, well, thank you so much. Thank you everybody for attending, and thank you for watching our webinars. We have a few interesting ones coming up. In the following months, we'll have some social media, interesting webinars, and some other web design. So watch out for this information coming to you, and join us for the next webinar. And thank you, Erica, for your help. And thank you, Marco,
Thank
for
you.
the presentation.
Thank you, Marco. Yes.
We'll
Thank
see
you, Marco,
you
for the
soon.
presentation.
Thank you, everyone. I'll see you everybody soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.